Hello and welcome to Smaulgld's Russian gold reserve update for the month of July 2017. Russian gold stack grew 400,000 ounces in July. Central Bank of Russia gold buying program continues in July as they add 400,000 ounces or another 12.44 tons of gold to their reserves in July. Now, since June 2015, the Central Bank of Russia has added nearly 450 tons of gold to her reserves. As of the end of July, Russia had, the Central Bank of Russia, 1,729 tons of gold, placing them sixth among nations and just behind China with 1,843 tons. So that's the People's Bank of China. Overall, Russian reserves grew from 412 billion to 418 billion. Let's take a look at some of the charts on Russia's gold reserves and their acquisitions over the prior 3 years and their monthly acquisitions. And you can see they are the #1 central bank in terms of gold additions for the past 5 years or so. They have surpassed the People's Bank of China, Kazakhstan, and all other banks. But basically in the last 10, 15, 20 years, central banks have not been adding gold to their reserves. In fact, they have been sellers for the most part, including Swiss National Bank, the Bank of England, even the German Bundesbank sells off small amounts of gold every year since 2002 for their government's coin program. So it's really Russia that has vaulted into the top 10, China as well, People's Bank of China, and Kazakhstan, which we'll probably report on next month, will enter the top 20. The Western central banks have not been adding gold for decades. They're also not selling so much in the last 10 years, although Bank of England sold in the early 2000s, and so did the Bank of Switzerland. United States gold has not been audited since the 50s, and the numbers that the U.S. reports as gold on its reserves has not changed since then. Switching quickly to cryptocurrencies, if you're interested in buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin, this is not investment advice that you do so, but if you've heard about it, you want to take the plunge and you haven't done so, you've consulted your advisors, you do whatever you have to do to get educated before you make any trades, you can open a Coinbase account through the link below or on the Smaulgld site and get $10 worth of free Bitcoin when you buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, and Smaulgld gets $10 worth of Bitcoin credited to his account as well. So that's one way of helping out the site. It's not advice that you go ahead and do that. If you want to help out the site and you just want to help out the site, you don't want to trade cryptocurrencies, or you can donate to Smaulgld via PayPal or by becoming a patron on Patreon. The links are below. You can also donate via Bitcoin or Litecoin. Again, that's how you want to help out Smaulgld. Do that. Don't buy anything you don't want to buy or you don't understand. So don't buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. Don't open a Coinbase account just to help out Smaulgld. Only do so if you have a desire and an informed understanding of what you're doing when you take the plunge to buy cryptocurrencies. But if you do want to also buy gold or silver, you can do so through the Smaulgld account, compare pricing and shipping at a number of bullion dealers, including BJSC, Golden Eagle Coin, SD Bullion, Money Metals Exchange. Same caveat applies. Don't buy any gold or silver unless you know what you're doing, you realize why you want to buy it, you've done your own research, you haven't listened to a bunch of hype about how it's going to the moon. Same thing with cryptocurrencies, but you have an informed knowledge of why and what you think gold and silver can do for your portfolio. And if you think you can't do anything for it, again, don't buy it. But if you think it's good for you, well, Smaulgld has affiliate links where you can compare pricing and shipping, lots of different products, and you can buy your gold and silver that way. If you don't want it shipped to your house, you can buy gold or silver through Bullion Vault or Gold Money, which are companies that will hold it for you, and you get there's Gold Money, you click on those, and Smaulgld also gets a small commission anytime you buy any of the products through the Smaulgld site. Full disclosure on that. And also, if you are going to buy Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Dash, whatever it is, you might want to consider picking up one of these Ledger wallets to store your Bitcoin in to take them off the exchange. All right, enough of the ads. Let's get into this Russia story. By the way, those ads are important. I don't have Google AdSense running. I don't have any ads on this YouTube other than what I throw out in each YouTube doesn't have ads on it. So I don't always push this pitch out, but today I'm pushing for donations. Now, Russian gold reserves. They added 208 tons in 2015. They added 199 tons in 2016. And so far this year, it looks like they're about ready to do the same, about 200 tons. Again, in July, they added 400,000 ounces. So looks like this year they will add another 200 tons or so. So that's 600 tons in 3 years, if you can do the math on that one. And here is the chart. This is just from 2015 through July 2017, just over 2 months, 2 years, a 25-month period, 448 tons of gold added. It's a nice trajectory there. Now, since 2009, Russia has added over 1,000 tons of gold to her reserves. That's more than the People's Bank of China, who has added 775 tons during the same period. We've gone through this before. People's Bank of China hasn't added gold to her reserves officially since October 2016. But as we mentioned, every time we mention China's gold, People's Bank of China is not the place where all of China's gold is. We've shown how much gold has come into China through Hong Kong. We've shown the volumes on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. We reported on retail sales of gold in China. We've reported on the domestic mining production in China. There's plenty of gold in China, at least 10, 15, 20,000 tons in the country. There's just only 1,843 tons of gold on the People's Bank of China's balance sheet. Now, Russia is a different story. Russia is also a large domestic miner, and we're going to see a chart where they add most of their domestic mining production to the reserves, but they also do ship some out of the country, and most of that gold they ship out of the country goes to China. But here you go is your months over the last 3 years, where you can see Russia's been pretty consistent about adding gold to her reserves each and every month. Even where they don't, I think it's part of the plan. I think they look to add 200 tons a year each year, and some months they may play catch up, and other months they may give it a rest and not add any. But generally they add gold every month, varying amounts, but it looks like about 500,000 ounces each and every month. So they've added 20.9 million ounces during this time period. In this chart, that's 650 tons. A lot of gold. Now, they are adding gold to reserves at a faster pace than China. China has stopped, so I've stopped keeping this chart. At least People's Bank of China has stopped. And Russia has just continued to pile on the gold. This chart only goes through November 2016, but there's no point in keeping the chart if China is not keeping pace. The People's Bank of China is not keeping pace. As I mentioned, Russia is the second or third largest gold mining producing country behind China, and maybe Australia's ahead of it, maybe it's not. But you can see this is the domestic mining production in blue, and Russia does about 225 to 300 tons a year, and they add about 200 tons a year to their gold reserves, and then the excess they ship out to China, it seems. So basically they're turning their rubles into gold. They get the costs in rubles, and then they get the gold out of the ground, then they stick it into their central bank, and they've converted their labor and their rubles into an international asset, gold. Here is where Russia sits. 6th, 1, US, 2, Germany, 3, Italy, 4, France, 5, China, 6, Russia. At this pace, Russia, they'll probably catch China in a year or so if People's Bank of China decides not to add any more gold to her reserves. Now, overall Russian reserves are also doing pretty well. Remember, Russia's a country that's pretty one-dimensional. It's largely a oil exporter, doesn't have a big domestic economy. I think it's 10th, 9th, or 8th in the world. It's large, but it's not one of the largest. It's not in the top 5. It's not on the same level as England, France, Germany, Italy, or even Spain, I believe. And through international sanctions, that harms it, and it doesn't do a lot of trade either with the United States. But they have grown their foreign reserves by over, it looks like 40 some odd, 40, I think it's 46 billion over the last year and a half, despite sanctions, and they have increased their gold reserve. So all appearances to me, the Russian central bank is very prudent. They have some inflation, they fight that inflation. They have some debt, but nowhere near the monumental amounts of debt that the US or China has. And they basically run a, what I would think most people would think would be an acceptable type of central bank, meaning that they don't just print currency left and right and issue a lot of debt. And it seems, I think the gold reserves are about 16, 17%, which is that's a decent amount. They say that individuals should have about 10% of gold in their portfolio as hedge, and they seem to have more than that. And of course, they'd rather not hold US dollars and treasuries, but that's the way the world is, and you can see they do hold them. They've been working on reducing their reliance, but even the increase that Russia has here, they've gone up from 60, 70 million up to 100 billion up to 108 billion down to 102 billion. That's not really that much anyway. That's less than a quarter of their overall reserves. And you do need a certain amount of dollars just because the way the world is. So I could see this number staying the same, going up a bit, going down a bit. And in the grand scheme of things, if Russia would eliminate $100 billion worth of all of their treasury securities, which I doubt they'll do, it'll have no impact on the U.S., have no impact on the world. Remember, the Federal Reserve at one point was doing, I think, $80 billion of QE a month, and they were buying $40 billion worth of treasuries a month. So I'm not sure that Russia is going to damage the U.S. by reducing their dollar holdings. If indeed they do, there's really no incentive for them. I think the incentive Russia has is not to reduce this number, not to reduce the amount of treasuries they hold, but really in the day-to-day, because they can hold these as reserves and they can use them when they need them. But I think it's their day-to-day transactions. They want to get off the SWIFT system. They don't want to deal with the sanctions, and they really want to set up something outside of the dollar. And that makes sense. But I don't think they're going to dump the dollar as a reserve asset, because that's what all the other countries keep. You keep gold, you keep dollars, you keep euros, maybe yen, but for the most part, and they have SDRs, but those SDRs are allocated to them and they can trade them amongst themselves, but that supply is limited. So unless there's a liquidity crisis, you won't see them getting more SDRs unless there's a crisis, either a dollar shortage, a dollar crisis, some crisis, where you see Russia holding tremendous amount more of SDRs, because after all, SDRs are basically based off the other five currencies, so they might as well, if they wanted to. You can create your own basket of SDR value just by going out and buy the proportions of dollars, euros, yen, yuan, and pounds, if you'd like, for your reserve positions. And that's about it. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see these charts better, they look better on, you can see what I'm looking at on the computer, on your iPhone, on your Android, whatever you have, than trying to look at them on the YouTube screen. Also, I'm on VidMe, so check us out over there. You never know what happened with Google's YouTube. I upload these videos now to VidMe. Also follow us on Twitter, subscribe to Smaulgld, like and share this video. And remember, if you'd like to donate, please do so. Thank you very much.